Money Making Monday, fellow ex-dubs / apostates. It's your boy Hawk, here with a little Talk and Squawk. And this topic is about my J-Dub step-parent, the guy my mom married when I was 11. You know, they've been long divorced, almost 20 years now. But this is just a little Hawk Talk and Squawk about this clown Kenny that my mom married. First of all, we met Kenny. He started coming to our congregation. It was about late 1992. He was studying with my mom's friend, who at the time was a single sister herself. I don't remember where she met the guy, but all I know is she started bringing him to the Kingdom Hall, and he started studying. And about maybe a year or so later, he was baptized. So by my mom and his sister already being close, you know, I guess he took a liking to my mom or whatever. And I guess to get close to her, he used me as a pawn and also as a way for him to collect time for volunteering to study with me. You know, at the time I'm about 10, going on 11. So he would study with me. I don't even remember the material. I don't remember if it was the Young People Ask book. It was whatever youth material was popular around that time. It might have been the Young People Ask. All I remember is we really didn't study that long. You know, he would come over. I don't even remember what day of the week it was. I know it was a weekday, so it was either a Monday or a Wednesday. But the study would be about maybe 45 minutes to an hour. You know, then after that, we would go across the street, shoot some hoops. You know what I mean? Whatever. But not too long after that, maybe a couple of months in, my mom tells me that they're dating. And I'm like, that's odd. I mean, y'all like 15, 16 years apart. Something like that. You know, my mom was about in her 40s and this guy wasn't even 30 yet. So, you know what I mean? I felt it kind of strange. You know, and the guy, he was from the islands, he was from the Caribbean islands. So, you know, when my pop found out that they were dating or whatever, because they wasn't dating long before they announced they was getting married. Probably about 6 months later, they told me that they was getting married. You know, when my pop and grandma got wind of it, they was like, oh, he probably marrying her to stay in the country to get his citizenship, which is the truth. That's exactly why he married her, so he could gain citizenship. You know what I mean? And I always had a weird feeling about their union. Even though me and Kenny was cool and got along up to that point, you know what I mean? He was cool, but once I found out that they were together and going to get married, it didn't sit right in my spirit. You know what I mean? And for good reason. I mean, come to find out, this guy had a whole family back home. Wife, kids, all of that. You know what I mean? And he would be sending them money and a barrel of goods once a month. But once they got married, you know what I mean, he switched up. He went from being, you know what I mean, like a homie to a dictator, thinking he could punk me around. And all it took was for him to put his hands on me one time, and I had my cousins pay him a visit. You know, but for the most part, he would just talk tough, talking about my pop was a worldly bum who was going to die at Armageddon. First of all, my pop was far from a bum. And second of all, my pop was in Vietnam, knew combat, and would snap your fucking neck like a twig. Let's get that clear. But my pop would have killed him. But you know, my mom being the lonely, bitter dummy she was, still harboring resentment against my pop. She would say, oh, your dad might know combat, but Kenny was raised around bulls and all that other shit. Like, my pop would kill him, then have his nephews finish the job. Like, stop hyping this nigga up. Because he is the only ninja that would marry your ass. You know what I mean? It's desperate. But all it took was for him to put his hands on me one time, and my cousins paid him a visit. You know what I mean? It just so happened that my pop was out of town with his girlfriend at the time, and I used to always go over to my grandma's house at the school anyway, because the school I was going to was closer to my grandma, so I would always go over there. Then my mom would pick me and my sister up when she got done work. And the day I was over there, my cousin just happened to be by. I told him what was going on, because he would always tell me, if that guy gives you any problems, let us know. You know what I mean? So my cousin Dwight, he sore with the Grandcestors. He transitioned about 3 years ago now. But him and my other cousin Daryl and a couple of their homies, they came by one night, and I knew they was coming, because they was like, open the door, because if your mom know we coming, she'll call the cops or try not to let us in or whatever. So they came by. It was about 7:30. You know what I mean? Kenny's on the couch watching his little wrestling, thinking he runs shit. I go to the door, and before you know it, they came barging in, approached him. Kenny didn't even have time to flinch. My cousin punched him dead in his head. My other cousin followed up. They fucked him up. And they sent him a message. You put your hands on my little cousins again, and this time, it's not going to stop at just a simple ass whooping. This is just a message. My mom was upstairs with my sister when all the commotion was going on. She runs downstairs screaming, stop, I'm going to call the cops, yelling out to Jehovah, like that was supposed to mean something. You just yelling out random names. Names of people that don't even exist. They whooped his ass. My cousins, they always had respect for my mom. They like, listen, he's not their pop, their dad, and it's not his job to discipline them. You know what I mean? That's your job, and that's their dad's job. You know what I mean? If this happens again, it ain't just going to stop at an ass whooping. You know what I mean? And Kenny got the message after that. You know, not too long after that, because my mom, after that happened, she started acting real funny towards me in defense of her little punk ass husband. We was always going back and forth. So at that point, I wouldn't stay with my pop for the next couple years. You know what I mean? I got into my little trouble, whatever, went to boot camp. When I came back home, by this time I'm 14, that's when I really started taking the J-dubs a little more serious. And it was mainly after my grandparents transitioned, my maternal grandparents. That got me into, you know what I mean, taking the J-dubs a little more serious. So I moved back home, and by this time, Kenny was non-existent. Yeah, he still lived there, but whenever he was there, he stayed in the bedroom. Because he knew by this time, I was bigger, I was stronger, and I would fuck him up myself. You know what I mean? I might even shoot his ass if it came to it. But I had no problems out of him after that. He used to hook us up, because he worked at the airport for the airlines. So he would hook us up with buddy passes. I could fly anywhere whenever I wanted. And by me being a hoops fanatic, hoops enthusiast, and loved going to basketball games, I was always traveling to other cities, or flying to other cities to go to games. You know what I mean? We had no problems after that. But by this point, he wasn't even going to the hall anyway. He had stopped going. He had his family back home. He was messing around with a couple bras that worked at the airport, because I worked at the airport for a couple years while he was there, and I used to see him messing with the other women, but I didn't give a fuck. And I used to tell my mom, yeah, you know what I mean, Kenny's cheating on you. You know what I mean? She knew, but she would always act like I didn't know what I was talking about when I would see this shit. You know what I mean? Long story short, he left her. And it's funny because it was the summer of 2005. My mom's sister, my uncle, aunt, cousins, and some of the other friends from the West Park congregation, they had went somewhere. I don't even remember where they went, but it was like another city or something to like serve where the need was greater or whatever. They was going for a week. And throughout that week, dude was moving out. And I knew he was leaving. You know what I mean? I thought it was funny. I'm like, we didn't need you to pay bills or nothing, because I had that covered. So my mom and them came back, and she told me, she was like, yeah, Kenny moved out. I said, I know. I seen him the week y'all was gone. You know what I mean? So they got divorced or whatever. They was only married 10 years. He only married her to get his citizenship. But I found it funny. And I seen him a few years ago. He's still working at the airport. Me and my queen, we was flying out. And we used the airline that he was working for, United Airlines. And I seen him. I ain't even speak to him or acknowledge him. I was hoping he didn't even recognize me. And I'm telling Queen, I'm like, yeah, that's the clown that married my mom. And she had already knew the story about how my cousins had to put a little hawk thrashing on him for not staying in his fucking place. But you know what I mean? I found it hilarious. My mom did all that caping for him just for her to leave her dumb ass high and dry. You know. But that's just a little talking squawk with your boy Hawk. More content coming. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content. Hawk out.